The judgment, the ruling was that this was a case of self-defense. Was this, in your view, a case of self-defense, or was it a case, in fact, of negligence?
So as Scott was saying, it's very difficult to weigh in on the particulars of a situation. I understand that officers are making split-second decisions, and certainly I understand that it is very difficult for police. They are given a great deal of discretion in how to handle a situation, for there to be accountability, and for anyone other than the police officer to determine what happened under those circumstances and what was the appropriate response. I don't want to comment on whether or not this was in fact self-defense or whether this was negligence on the part of the officer. Again, I know that there's litigation surrounding this, so I do not want to comment on that specifically. But again, I do feel like a good number of these shootings can be avoided if we are focused on preserving life, if we are actually engaging as human beings and understanding that a person in a time of crisis is not going to respond well to yelling, screaming, and having a gun pointed in his or her face.
What about the issue of the police officer ordering this young man to drop the object that he was apparently holding and put his arms up? Would that necessarily give the police officer the powers of execution?
Could, possibly, but again, as we've been discussing here, the encounter between the law enforcement officer here and Alfred was wrong from the get-go. It was approached incorrectly from the start. So when you're trying to put yourself in both the officer's shoes and the victim's shoes, Alfred's shoes, and based on what we heard from the documentary, trying to understand sort of when you're in this state of distress, how it is you're going to respond. Certainly, it's not clear whether or not, had Alfred dropped the item in his hand, if that would have resulted in a different outcome. It's very hard to know. Again, I hope that we start moving towards a place where we can respect life and that we have law enforcement prioritizing the preservation of it.